Picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning in 1905 Britain. You light up a cigarette right there in your hospital bed. Walk outside and see a 6-year-old boy sweeping chimneys. Pop into the pub for lunch and everyone's smoking while they eat. Nobody bats an eye. This was just normal life. Today, we're looking at 16 completely ordinary things British people did every single day that would get you arrested, fined, or at minimum, seriously judged if you tried them now. Some of these will shock you. Some might even make you a bit uncomfortable. But they're all 100% real, documented historical facts. Let's dive in. Right, let's start with the big one. Child labor. And I don't mean teenagers with part-time jobs. I'm talking about 5-year-olds working 12-hour shifts in coal mines. 4-year-olds being sent up chimneys to scrape out the soot. This wasn't some rare abuse case. This was standard practice. The Cotton Mills Act of 1819. Get this, it was considered progressive because it banned children under 9 from working in cotton mills. Under 9! And even that law was barely enforced. According to official parliamentary records, children as young as 3 had been put to work before that act passed. In the mines, children were strapped to carts filled with coal and forced to pull them on their hands and knees through tunnels too narrow for adults. The National Archives has testimonies from former child workers describing 16-hour days underground. No ventilation. Black lung was common. Many didn't make it to 25. The 1833 Factory Act finally said kids under 9 couldn't work at all. But that only applied to textiles. Everywhere else, still fair game. All right, number 2. Smoking absolutely everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean it. Hospitals, doctors' offices, schools, aeroplanes once they existed. Restaurants where the question wasn't, can I smoke, but smoking or non-smoking section, which was basically just different sides of the same room. Up until 2007 in England, that's only 17 years ago, you could smoke in pubs and restaurants. The ban came in on July 1st, and according to government records, there was genuine panic from the hospitality industry. They thought it would destroy their business. Turns out, people quite liked not going home smelling like an ashtray. Scotland actually banned it first in 2006. Ireland beat everyone in 2004. But here's what really gets me. Doctors used to recommend cigarettes. Actual medical professionals would tell pregnant women to smoke to calm their nerves. There were adverts with doctors in white coats holding cigarettes, saying which brand they preferred. This wasn't medieval times. This was the 1950s. My grandparents' generation. Number 3 is brilliant. Being drunk in charge of a cow. Yes, you heard that right. The Licensing Act of 1872 specifically made it illegal to be drunk while in charge of cattle, horses, carriages, or, and I love this detail, steam engines. But here's the thing. Before that law, perfectly fine. Nobody cared. Actually, being drunk in public was so common, it was basically a cultural institution. The same 1872 Act made it illegal to be drunk on any highway or public place. Sounds reasonable now, but back then? You'd walk down any street in London and see people absolutely plastered at 2 in the afternoon. According to Victorian police records, public drunkenness arrests were so frequent, they stopped recording them all. And get this, technically, it's still illegal to be drunk inside a pub. The law says publicans can't permit drunkenness on their premises, which means every Friday night in every town in Britain, thousands of people are technically breaking the law. It's just not enforced. Unless you're causing trouble, nobody cares. But the law's still there. Number 4. Workplace safety. Or rather, the complete absence of it. Before the Factory Act started rolling out from 1833 onwards, There were literally no laws about workplace safety. None. Dangerous machinery with exposed gears and belts? That's fine. No railings around drop-offs? No problem. Workers getting injured or killed? Well, that's just the cost of doing business. Women worked in textile mills with their long hair and long dresses just inches from spinning machinery. According to factory inspection reports from the 1840s, workers getting scalped or having limbs torn off by machines was so common it barely made the local papers. There were no safety guards, no emergency stops, no protective equipment. You just hoped for the best. Match factories had it particularly bad. They used white phosphorus, which caused a condition called phossy jaw. Basically, your jawbone would rot away while you were still alive. It was horrific. But the factories kept using it because it was cheap. Parliament didn't ban white phosphorus until 1908. That's the 20th century. Women had been dying from it for decades. Right, now we get into the weird ones. Number 5. Flying kites in public. The Metropolitan Police Act of 1839 made it illegal to fly a kite in any public place if it causes annoyance or danger. Now, this sounds ridiculous until you realize Victorian streets were packed with horses, carriages, and foot traffic. A kite string across a busy road could genuinely cause problems. Same act also banned sliding on ice or snow in the street. Again, sounds mad, but think about it. You've got kids sliding down icy cobblestone hills where horses and carts are trying to get through. Recipe for disaster. But before 1839, slide away. Nobody's stopping you. Number 6. Knock a door run. Or, as it was called, knock down ginger. Kids have been doing this forever, right? Well, the Metropolitan Police Act, yes, the same one from 1839, specifically made it illegal to willfully and wantonly disturb any inhabitant by pulling or ringing any doorbell or knocking at any door without lawful excuse. So, technically, every kid who's ever played this game is a criminal. The same section also made it illegal to extinguish street lamps, which was apparently also a popular prank. Victorian kids were menaces, apparently. But before 1839? Knock away. The law didn't care. Here's a lovely domestic one. Number 7. Beating your carpet or rug in the street after 8 a.m. Section 60 of the Metropolitan Police Act 1839 says you can only beat or shake carpets and rugs before 8 in the morning. Doormats are fine anytime, though. Very specific. This seems bizarre until you think about why. No vacuum cleaners back then. Everyone had rugs and carpets that collected dirt and dust, so they'd hang them outside and beat the dust out. Imagine every house on your street doing this at noon. You'd be walking through clouds of dust constantly. So they restricted it to early morning when fewer people were about. Before this law, dust clouds all day long. Number 8 is properly strange. Carrying planks of wood along the pavement. Section 54 of the Town Police Clauses Act 1847 made this illegal in certain areas. Why? Well, have you ever tried to pass someone carrying a massive plank in a narrow street? It's a nightmare. You're forced into the road where horses and carts are. According to the Act, this also applies to poles, ladders, and placards. Basically anything long and awkward that blocks the pavement. But there are exceptions if you're loading it onto a vehicle. Before 1847, carry whatever you want, however you want. Block the whole street. Nobody's stopping you. Number 9. Walking cattle down the street between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. The Metropolitan Streets Act of 1867 specifically banned this unless you had written permission from the Commissioner of Police. Before 10 in the morning or after 7 at night, fine. Middle of the day? illegal. This is because cities like London still had cattle markets, and farmers would drive their herds right through the city streets to get there. Can you imagine? You're trying to get to work, and there's just a herd of cows blocking Oxford Street. The smell alone. So they restricted it to times when there was less foot traffic. But before 1867, cows whenever, wherever. Number 10 takes us into something more systemic. Child domestic servants. Now, we talked about factory work, but middle and upper-class families would employ children as young as 12, sometimes younger, as servants. They'd work 16-hour days for room and board, and maybe a few shillings a year. According to historical census data, being in service was one of the most common occupations for working-class girls. They'd be sent away from their families at 11 or 12 to work in big houses. The girl who did all work, that meant cooking, cleaning, laundry, childcare, everything, might be 13 years old, working from 5 a.m. until midnight. There were no employment laws, no minimum wage, no days off. If you got sick, you got sacked. If the master or his sons got inappropriate, well, that was your problem. Some families were kind, many weren't. And all of it was perfectly legal until labor laws gradually started protecting domestic workers in the early 20th century. All right, number 11 is weirdly specific. Gambling in libraries. The Library Offences Act of 1898 made it illegal to gamble or bet in any library in England. Also illegal, using violent, abusive, or obscene language, or behaving in a disorderly manner. The fine, not exceeding 40 shillings, which was nearly 3 weeks' wages for the average worker at the time. Before 1898, apparently libraries had such problems with gambling that Parliament felt the need to pass a specific act about it. People were using public libraries as makeshift gambling dens. Once the law passed, that stopped. But for years before, better way in the reference section. Number 12 is my personal favorite. Handling salmon in suspicious circumstances. This is a real law. The Salmon Act of 1986, yes, 1986, not 1886, Section 32, makes it illegal to handle salmon under suspicious circumstances. What does that mean? Nobody really knows. It's deliberately vague. The law was meant to crack down on salmon poaching and illegal fishing. If you're caught with salmon and can't explain where you got it, that's suspicious circumstances. But the wording is so bizarre, it's become famous. Before 1986, you could handle your salmon as suspiciously as you liked. Nobody cared. Number 13. Wearing armour in Parliament. The statute forbidding bearing of armour from 1313, that's 711 years ago, made it illegal to wear armour inside the Houses of Parliament. This law is still technically enforced today. Why? Because in 1313, Parliament was genuinely violent. Edward II passed this law to stop actual armed combat breaking out during sessions. Different political factions would show up in full armor, ready to fight. So the king said, no more armor. Problem solved. Before 1313, armored parliamentary debates were apparently a thing. Number 14. Defacing currency. Now, there's a myth that putting a stamp upside down is treason because it disrespects the monarch. That's not true. But there were genuine laws about defacing coins. The Coinage Offences Act from the 1700s made it illegal to deface or melt down coins with the monarch's face on them. This wasn't about respect, though. It was about economics. People would shave bits of gold or silver off coins, melt them down, and sell the metal. Do that to enough coins and you're basically stealing from the treasury. The penalty was harsh. You could be transported to Australia. Before these laws, clip and melt away. Free money. Number 15. Working on Sunday. The Sunday Observance Acts from the 17th and 18th centuries made it illegal to work or trade on Sundays. Everything had to close. No shops, no markets, no entertainment. You went to church, and that was basically your day. This lasted well into the 20th century in various forms. Sunday trading laws weren't fully relaxed until the Sunday Trading Act of 1994. That's 30 years ago. Before then, big shops couldn't open on Sundays. Small corner shops could do limited hours. It was all very complicated. But back in the Victorian era, nothing. Complete shutdown. Work on Sunday? Illegal. And finally, number 16. Keeping whales or sturgeon you find. The Prerogativa Regis from 1322, another ancient law that's technically still valid, says all whales and sturgeon found in UK waters belong to the Crown. If you find one beached or catch one, you must offer it to the reigning monarch. This was about wealth and power. Whales provided valuable oil and ambergris. Sturgeon was considered a delicacy, so the king claimed them all. The law says the head and tail of a whale go to the king, the rest to the finder. But technically, you still have to offer it first. Before 1322, finders keepers. After, royal property. So there you have it. 16 completely normal, everyday things that would land you in legal trouble now. And honestly, we should be grateful for most of these changes. Child labor laws exist for good reasons. Smoking bans protect workers and children. Workplace safety regulations save lives. Currency laws prevent economic chaos. But here's what strikes me. None of these changes just happened. Every single one was fought for. Factory owners fought child labor laws. Tobacco companies fought smoking bans. Business owners fought workplace safety regulations. People in power always resist change that costs them money or convenience, even when that change obviously makes society better. Every protection we have now, from child labor laws to food safety to workplace rights, exists because someone fought for it against people who said it would ruin everything. And they weren't that long ago. My great-grandparents lived through some of these changes. Yours probably did too. Makes you think about what we're doing now that people in 50 years will look back on and say, I can't believe that was legal, right? Thanks for watching. If this made you think differently about history or laws or just everyday life, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more content like this. And drop a comment. Which of these 16 things shocked you most? Or what do you think we're doing now that'll be illegal in the future? See you in the next one.